Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm Michael LeBlanc, your host. The Voice of Retail is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada, and it's presented by Hale, a performance marketing partner trusted by brands like ASICS, Sage, and Orange Theory to scale with focus and impact.
Listen, not the first time you and I have been on stage together, so thank you for making the opportunity.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're going to talk about kind of the current state of business. We're going to talk about a little bit about leadership. You got a new role. You've been Best Buy a long time, but now you're in a different leadership position.
Yep.
And then we're going to talk about advice. Going to ask you advice for your fellow retailers and the people who want to work with retailers, and
Sure.
We'll talk about that.
Before we do that, I just want to say Kim and I had a cocktail last night, and I got to meet Kim for the first time. And I'm also new in my role. I'm also now on the board for the RCC. And I just wanted to quickly say it was a pleasure to meet you, get to know you very quickly over a 1.5-hour conversation. And curious, open-minded, and humble. And certainly has a track record that I think is going to reshape how RCC provides value in our industry. So looking forward to everything you're about to do.
Fantastic. Yeah. You're going to regret that 250-person email.
I didn't get one of those.
What? You're special. They knew we were coming to see you.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump right in. We got a little audio visual here, or a little visual here. It's going to start playing.
Cool.
I wanted to first start talking about what's working for Best Buy Canada. You were in the news, good numbers, strong results, lots of things going on in the stores. You can see as we talk, we're going to, what you were doing in the stores. So why don't we start there? What's working for Best Buy Canada, and we'll talk about the boom years and the COVID years and the post-COVID years. But
wow,
talk about what's working.
We could spend all day on that question. What's working for Best Buy Canada? So just a backstory. Been in the business in Canada for about 43 years now. As we think about what's going on right now, we have an incredible amount of momentum. And it all starts with just truly understanding what role we play. Why do we even exist as a retailer? Why Best Buy? You all are customers and you all use technology every single day, and you know that you can get technology in a myriad of different places. And so we were constantly humbly asking ourselves why we matter and how do we provide value. And that's sort of the core of what we are. And the Best Buy mantra internally is that we are not really a company, we're not a retailer, we're a group of people. And that's where everything else builds off of. And that creates a really human element in what can be a very complex business. And so it all starts there. We've been really privileged to be a well-run company for many years. Such that we have this really cool balance of making sure that we understand that we make money, but we reinvest that money in terms of making sure that we're continuously relevant with the changing needs. Change is the mantra every single day. It's indoctrinated in everybody who participates in being part of the Best Buy team. If change is not your game, you don't like change, then you don't belong in our company. And we're okay to admit stuff like that. And so we've got a really vibrant team. They're nimble. They're lean. We get a lot done, and we're innovating on every single front that you can think of. And I think what you're seeing here is the inside of some of our stores. And what we're really proud of is that even after 40 years of being in the business, we're on the cusp at the end of this year of modernizing 85% of all of our stores in Canada. We have 320 stores in Canada. By the end of next year, with the capital we'll be asking the U.S. for, 100% of our stores will be modernized. Wow. And that's unheard of by global standards. Yeah. And so, in addition to that, just keep going on the innovation track for this kind of where we're winning. We live in two worlds today. All of us do. We live in a sort of an attention world where our minds are consumed by screens and information and the virtual realities of a digital world, our avatars, as it were. And we live in a very physical world as well, where you have to actually touch things and do things that are tangible. And if you're not playing in both of those realms and innovating in both of those realms, you're losing. And so we're very thoughtful about that sort of duality.
Can I pick up on something in that? So, you talk about the attention deficit. There's some stats that we all now have less attention than a goldfish, right? So it's very short. And you could see that on the growth of short form videos and all these things. And I like to make the point, you're talking about your stores, what's the average amount of time a customer spends at a Best Buy store when they're there? It's not 5 seconds. It's not 30 seconds.
No.
Like you've got, and retailers have the opportunity there to really make a big impression that you just, even if you had infinite amounts of money, you couldn't buy that attention on the platform.
It's funny, we were just talking about it yesterday. We're at a really seminal moment in our company. We got together as a 70-person leadership team and we kicked off our new 5-year strategy and our vision. And I had asked the question in the room, and I'll ask the question in this room, what's the most valuable commodity or resource that we all know of?
Time.
Time.
Right.
And I say, no, it's not time. Time is second to attention. Right? So, we've all got time, but where are you really giving your attention to is really the most valuable commodity, and how do you play to that? And so to your point, we know today that when customers come to our stores, they've decided to get in their car, come to the store, and spend an enormous amount of time relative to how they could spend their attention on other realms. It's so easy to get on your phone or a screen, or today you could ask an AI chatbot to do a bunch of things for you too. So where is your attention going? And so we got to be very, strategic and very smart about how we captivate that attention.
I want to continue this thread on the stores because as I see, and I know you and I talked about this before, you've got a customer that could be walking in that really values a frictionless transaction. Maybe they're picking up something they ordered online. They really want to get in and they want to get out. You got to master efficiency, right? 1 minute in line is like an hour in real time. But then you have other customers who will walk in and say, like, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of televisions. Somebody needs to help me choose the right one. I don't understand half the features. So how do you balance that when you think about your stores?
This advice may not apply to everybody because it really depends on what kind of business you are, how you scaled. The thing about Best Buy is that we're equally a specialty retailer. We're really specialized in certain attributes, high touch, high consultation, whatever department that might be, an appliance or a phone. Or a TV or a printer, but at the same time, we're mass market. We have huge scale, and we appeal to every single Canadian, whether you just want to be left alone, walk in, grab something really quickly, or you want to walk in and have a really thoughtful conversation with another human being about making the best choice. So that's one of our challenges, is serving the myriad of those segments and understanding who they are, where they are, and do we have the right resources in place to offer that particular service at that time. That's a very complex challenge.
It's a real spectrum of in-store experience that you need to deliver on a regular basis. Can we talk about headwinds and tailwinds? So during the COVID era, there's a lot of people who bought products that you sell. Like a lot of us bought a lot of products, and it created what I called the great buy forward. In other words, then these products last. So, we're kind of, what are we now, 5 years past, give or take. So if you had great years, everybody had great years if you could get product. And then, there's a bit of a lull. But now it feels like there's a bit of a tailwind with, let's call it replenishment or whatever. Is that the only tailwind that you see? Like innovation in the products from the vendors? Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces there. So it's a thoughtful question. It's hard to celebrate the successes through a period of time like COVID was. So I feel a little bit weird talking about it as but the way our teams, kind of rallied, the way we showed up, we had some of the best years of our entire company's, history. And that's because humanity migrated towards an even more technological existence. They just needed to entertain themselves, educate, be productive at home and so forth. The migration of offices into home, happened, and we were obviously a benefactor of that and able to support that in the right way. Government pumped a bunch of money into the pockets of everybody who had a pulse, and they went and bought iPhones and so forth. And
but the organization had to be, give yourself credit, the organization, retailers had to be ready for
with the help of RCC, bouncing around 14 and 15 different, retail models in different provinces was no joke. And one of the best experiences of my life, I think, as well, running the stores at the time. Humans are remarkable. They're just so great. But to answer your question, what it did, it put a demand bubble in the system. Right? So we sold in a bunch of laptops. And so if you think about the life cycle of technology, laptops might last you 2 to 4 years before you want a new one. Phones is 2 to 3 years before you want the new one. TVs is 5 to 7 years before you want a new one. So you create a demand bubble in the system, and now it's kind of coming through. We're about 5 years later, and we're starting to see those refreshes happen. And we just posted one of the best quarters of our company's history last quarter. But that's also fueled by some of the innovation in the space, right? So Windows.
You're not the only person where you can buy a computer and technology.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and so you've got the Windows upgrade happening. Nintendo launched a new product and so forth. And so there's the cool thing about our business is that it's technology, and by virtue, technology equals innovation, and there's always innovation, and that's really our wheelhouse, right?
Right.
Innovation can be commoditized. Technology commoditizes, and many retailers out there leverage that for unit productivity. But we're always on the forefront of the latest innovations, and we get the benefit from that. And so we always exist. We're the platform for brands and new technologies and innovations, and that's kind of the role we play.
About this time last year at this conference, I was on the stage with one of your colleagues, Jennifer Barr, talking
Yes,
about Best Buy Express. It was the race to open, and you did the open with your partners at Bell. So 1 year later, what's the assessment? It sounds like it's working for you. When I visit those stores, they're not the same as they were before. They're really good.
Yeah.
Not that they were bad before, but they're you can see your influence. The Best Buy influence.
And Bell did a great job with the source, no joke. But again, if you have one store and I said double your stores, that's fairly straightforward. If you're 130 stores and you said double your store count, you're like, what? And then something falls in your lap. And the long and the short of it is, again, it's a team effort. So we opened up 167 stores in 5 months. What people don't know is the work that happened before that, right? And so when we were talking with Bell, they were talking with many retailers. And so we had to put forward our bid. And in that bid process, we crowdsourced the bid. We went to every single one of our divisional leaders and said, on this part of the bid, what would you do? And so when you crowdsource from all your thought leaders, you build the best plan, a proposal, I should say. Well, that proposal was also our plan. So all we had to do was hand it to the team and go. In retrospect, what we look at is it's fiercely successful. It's an amazing enterprise. It's a very different Best Buy experience. It's put us in markets we couldn't have existed in before.
It's more on the spectrum of efficiency than experience, but it's a real blend of the two.
It's a blend of the two, and then it also ties into our omnichannel approach. So what we're finding now is wherever there's a Best Buy Express store, where we never had a store, we're seeing our online sales grow, which is really cool.
That's neat.
So that just proves the ecosystem works, right? Yeah. I think the really big point there is it's a marriage. Best Buy Express is a marriage between two companies with huge egos. And you know how marriages work, right? You've got to have open communication. You've got to work on it. You've got to solve your issues right away and so forth. And Bell's been a remarkable partner in that regard, and we're thriving. And so we have 2 stores that we gave all of our attention to, and you would be blown away at the results. And what we needed to do is scale that attention across the spectrum. But 5 months is getting them open. Then we go to stabilizing. Then we realize that Quebec's got its own personality. Rural stores have their own personality. Sure. Modern stores have their own personality. And now we're going through and we're tweaking the model, and we're continuing to see the growth going on there. So it's really, really been a beneficial add to our
What a journey it's been for that physical space, from Radio Shack in my days all the way through
crazy.
Through the stores, through Circuit City. Yeah. I mean, it's been such a journey.
It stops at Best Buy.
It stops at Best Buy.
It's not going anywhere.
It's yours to own.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. The Voice of Retail is brought to you by Hale, the partner behind some of the fastest-growing DTC and retail brands in North America. Hale is recognized for senior teams who cut out the noise and keep their focus on what matters most: growth. Their approach is based on outcomes, not hours. They are selective with who they partner with, bringing speed, accountability, and a clear strategy to every engagement. Paid media, content, performance, all of it connects directly to real results. That's why brands like ASICS Sage and Orange Theory choose Hale to help them scale. Learn more at wearehale.com.
Let's talk about 2 quick things, and you and I have talked about these both before. I think they're kind of, I don't know if I'd describe them as passion projects, but really interesting elements of Best Buy, which is 1, the retail media. You were very early in on retail media, and 2 is the marketplace. So starting with marketplace, just a couple of quick comments. Is it there's a lot of people in marketplace now. You've got probably, I don't know, maybe a first mover advantage, but that doesn't last forever. How do you refresh that, and how do you think about those 2 things?
Well, I think marketplaces for retailers like our size would be akin to saying you need a website back in the 80s and 90s. Walmart has one. Costco to a degree has one. Amazon is one, right? And so we've been at it for 10 years, and it's incredible what it can do for you. It's incredible what it's doing for us. It allows us to be really the authority in consumer tech. It opens up our engine to small sellers who wouldn't otherwise have the chance to move the types of volumes that they move. And it really, ultimately, if I was to explain it, Best Buy is now basically an apparatus. We're the conduit between anybody who wants to sell technology, whether you're a big, OEM enterprise or you're an independent reseller.
Do you think of it as a platform? Do you think
exactly. It's part of our platform, right? It's a channel within our platform. We have stores, we have .ca, we have app, and we have marketplace. And you have a seller community on one side, first party, third party, and on the other side you have customers who just want to buy this stuff. And we become the conduit that moves that through digitally and physically.
I think where you guys have been particularly successful is that kind of, the question about is it an online sale or a store sale is you're really asking the wrong question, right? It's more and more, it's a distinction without a meaningful difference.
That's right.
And I think where you've been really successful is sitting back and say, well, whatever all these channels are, and they've got their own operational metrics and they need to run, how does a customer approach it?
Right.
Which kind of gets a little bit into retail media. So again, early days in retail media, there's a lot of talk about it.
Sure.
It tends to be more oriented to the larger retailers and the smaller retailers. But are you happy with where you are in retail media?
Yeah, we're super happy. It's a big idea. And we've been doing this for a long time. I mean, our vendor partners rely on us to be a platform for their campaigns and so forth. And they invest marketing dollars with us and use our assets to kind of get their messages across the board.
And for those of you who may or may not know retail media, it's basically taking brand dollars, not co-op dollars, not dollars that are partnership merchant dollars, but saying, okay, you spend X amount of dollars on external media, spend them with us because we've got the data and we're closer to the customer.
I'll give you a real example. I mean, if you take a company like Microsoft, they've got copious amounts of money to go and share their brand story across a number of avenues. They can buy agency media, billboards, TV commercials, internet search, and so forth. What retail media brings to the table, companies like Best Buy, is that it's one thing to shout out from the mountaintop your brand story and your message and tell everybody what you're about. It's a very different thing to be able to do that and connect it distinctly to the buy button, right? To the consumer at large. And that's where we really come in. Now, we are no longer just a retailer, we are a media company. We get to, and we're not just doing this for companies' products that we sell. We use the example all the time. McDonald's knows that when you buy a TV, you're probably hungry. So what can Best Buy do to help us target our message to that audience at the right time so we can captivate that, and at the same time do it properly so we can add value to the customer's life, not hound them around and hunt them.
Well, there's a whole separate discussion about retail media because I find it fascinating because if you're not careful, you get in the way of the customer experience.
That's right. Yep.
And you get a bit of the tail wagging the dog, right? Like when I was at Hudson's Bay, I'm wearing my Hudson's Bay RIP socks today, by the way, just in honor of Hudson's Bay. I spent 7 years there. At the end of the day, at the end of days, when I was there, the credit card made all the money, so it became a bit of the tail wagging the dog.
Right.
We structured offers based on how it worked for the credit card, which gets an organization pulled off the rails.
And that's the key. It's got to go back to the human element, right? It's so easy to say, we know about you, now we're going to just haunt you. We're going to hunt you down on the internet, we're going to throw cookies, based ads your way. We used the example yesterday at our meeting. It's like you bought a 75-inch TV in the store, and then you go on the internet, and for the next 2 weeks, we're haunting you with an ad for a 75-inch TV. Why? Come on, seriously. So we have to be very thoughtful about how we create a delightful
I have two in my house. I have two in my house. So maybe there's
a third.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know where to get it.
I know where you can get one. Yeah.
Last question on this, and we got some video here. Talk about innovation. I want to talk about innovation that doesn't happen in front of the consumer, but the innovation that happens behind the scenes in the warehouse, and we're seeing some scenes of. What are we looking at, and how do you think of the innovation behind in supply chain?
Yeah, so supply chain in particular can be a kind of a topic that can be interesting or uninteresting. But what I would tell you is that in a digital world, you still need at some point in time for something physical to happen. And so we're investing an enormous amount of energy and time in our logistics infrastructure. Think about our logistics as not just warehouses, but also the collection of our stores. They all work together in a sort of a net across the country for services, product movement, and so forth. And what you're seeing on the screen here was one of our company's biggest investments recently, a phenomenal feat of building basically a robot inside of our warehouse that is now fully automated. These little guys run around, and 80,000 bins sit inside of this cube that sits inside of our warehouse. And it literally is, you feed it inventory, it knows where to put it all, and then when your order gets placed online, it lands in the warehouse, the robot knows exactly where it is, picks the right bin, moves them all around if it needs to, drops the bin, a picker packs it, goes into a box, it gets wrapped up, shipped out the door. It's a remarkable feat.
It's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah. So and we're doing the same thing in the West this year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it kind of bridges to how many minutes are we into the conversation? We haven't talked about AI. I mean, these days you can't spell retail without AI, right?
Right,
So,
sure.
But I wanted to ask you, there's obviously a lot of technology going on here, but I want to, if you could spend a minute talking about it from the other perspective. I'm thinking now a lot about how consumers are using AI.
Yeah.
Recently in the news, the retailer said that 20% of their referral traffic came from ChatGPT. You know, the landscape is changing again. The way people search is changing. How are you guys thinking about that?
Well, talking to as many people as I can and really actually, to be honest, in my new role, I'd say 50% of my time is focused on technology and the AI future. You have to. And in our business, it's going to affect the things that we sell. It's going to affect how our employees work. It's going to affect how we operate. And it's going to affect how our customers shop. And I always add the fifth is how we all live our lives, right? So it's no joke. Google hung on to dominant, search for almost their entire history. Bing was able to maybe scratch recently and get 1%. And then ChatGPT came in, and now they're dominating almost 20% of search overnight. It's insane. And so it radically changes how you think about how you're going to grab customers' attention, how the customers are going to find the things that they want in their lives and so forth, and what role do you play as a retailer to kind of be intermediated in there.
And how you build authority. And Leger did some great research. Check it out. It was in August, I think. They did some amazing research about the levels of use went from like 23% to 57%. And the levels of trust are crazy. What are people thinking? Like they have more trust in this AI than their friends, which is, let's stop a bit, think about that. But anyway, so it's really coming, and it's coming fast.
It is,
right?
yeah. And so I don't have the answers. I don't think any of us do, but we're constantly innovating our thought process around it. And I think in the future, we're thinking that there's still a role to play about being a personality within an AI construct. You might get a response, but if it's backed by a brand you trust, you might take it more seriously.
Trust.
Trust. It's a big factor. And so who's the personality or the influence behind the query? Yeah. And then if it results in a physical need, like a shipment of a product or a visit to the store, are you there and accessible? And what we're learning already is we're ranking already in AI search. So we're delighted about that. We won't take that for granted. But a lot of it is also foundational data. If you don't have a proper strategy, organization, and systemic approach to data and governance and all of that stuff, then you're not set up for an AI future.
Well, AI is going to get you to the wrong place just faster.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
If you're not set up. Let's talk about leadership, and then we'll get to advice to the folks in the room. What's your animating principle? You've talked about, it's clear, and as I listen to you and reflect on what you've been saying, the intersection of people, what you were doing yesterday, how you crowdsource ideas. So is that your animating principle around how you lead?
Yeah, look, we say there's really a lot of ways to lead, and I could just sit up here and just read our values off. I mean, and I've said this before, for us, values are not just words on a wall. They're instilled in our everyday lives. And what we really do look forward and I can say this, is the values that I bring to work are the same values that I hold in my personal life, that I treat with my kids. And so, this humility, accepting challenge and change, but it's also a lot of fun. Like having fun is one of our core values. And so if you take that seriously, I don't make a lot of decisions at work. I have an incredible team. And we sit around the table and we talk about whatever problem it is or whatever ideas we have or whatever crisis is going on. It's an enjoyable conversation. And then what you get is you get to push the idea around the table together. And usually, if you've got smart people at the table, you usually get to consensus on the right decision. The reason I get my role is because somebody has to break the tie when there's two right decisions. And what's really cool about that is it rarely happens, but when it does, I get to make the call, and then everybody stacks hands and we go.
Right.
And it takes more time than being the opposite, which is a dictator.
Yeah.
Do as I say. I'm the smartest guy in the room. Just go get it done. I don't want to hear about it. And you can get a lot done that way, but I don't think it's a sustainable strategy in the modern day. For a company like ours.
It's kind of inefficient use of your resource, your people as well. Like I think it's also kind of an old. Steve Dennis, my partner, talks about it in one of his books. It's an old model of leadership that you're assumed to have all the answers.
Well, and I still think it's a leadership model that can work in certain regards, but it's just not for. I don't think it's for a place where you're in service of other human beings. I can't. There's no argument that will wrestle my brain off of that thinking, and so. And what you find is real delight in just seeing people be at their best. They're in creative environments. They're allowed to speak their mind. They're allowed to look at the boss and say, I think you're wrong on that, and feel very confident in doing that. And everybody gets to be receptive of that. Is it ever perfect? No, there's always conflict and, whatnot. Hierarchies are hierarchies and so forth. But you got to do the best you can at getting that point. And I think it really lets the place breathe. And the ideas get pushed around, and then you get discretionary effort because people actually enjoy the work. They bring their best selves in, and they go home thinking about it. They talk about work to their families, and they tell the story about the thing that they're building and so forth. It's just it's a better life.
I like that term, discretionary effort. I like that term a lot. Let's turn our minds for the time we have left to talk about advice. So I'm going to parse advice in two ways. One for your fellow retailers, and of course, a few, but not too many, have the same resources that you might.
Sure.
So what's your, stepping back and say, listen, here's what you need to do, maybe stop doing. What's your advice to your fellow retailers in the room?
Yeah, it's funny because you're big, you're Best Buy, you're huge, you're multi-billion dollars, you had hundreds of locations and millions of dollars, and you can make mistakes and it doesn't cost you anything. It's like, well, that's a fallacy. Our mistakes cost us a lot of money. And
they're bigger mistakes.
What I'd say is the guiding principles is everybody in your company should be thinking about this as their own company and a small company, right? And so, the advice I got when I got tapped for the job was, Corey Berry, our CEO, I got to talk to her. I said, what advice do you have? And she gave me one piece of advice. The first thing to do is to make sure you've got the right team. So whatever you're building, small, big, and even if you're a sole proprietor and you're the one-man show or the one-woman show, your team can be the people that you count on for advice, right? Just build a great team of people you can trust and leverage that to everything you can. And the next piece of advice is I would say that there's this old adage that God gave you 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. I'd say, we all have 5 senses and one voice. Use it in that ratio. Be curious, ask more questions than you offer, and you're going to learn a lot. And then the second part of that, my own learning is that no matter how big or small you are, you have to look at everything you're doing through a lens that is a microscope and a telescope at the same time.
Interesting.
And you've got a dial. And if you've got the innate ability to kind of zoom in on the details and use those 5 senses to experience whatever it feels like to unload a truck, to deal with an angry customer, right, to order something online, whatever it is, whatever part of your business that exists, if you haven't viscerally felt it yourself, you're not intelligent on it. And once you have that microscope lens, then you can zoom back out to the telescope view, and you can say, what does this mean at macro scale? What does my economy look like? And when you have those 2 vantage points, you're going to make really intelligent decisions on finances, operations, human resources, technology. The list goes on.
Fantastic. So. Advice for, there's probably a few people in the room would love to sell products or services to Best Buy. If we think about even just the services part, the products are in the merchants, but just the service. Like, what's the first thing that you think of when you hear, I'd like to work with you and I bring you X? What's your advice to the folks in the room?
I mean, I got the title and then my inbox filled right up. And look, it's noisy out there. It's really, really noisy. There's no shortage of vendors who have this belief system that they have the best thing that they can offer you or an incentive to do so. I think the equation is really about, you have to be truly, truly honest about your value that you're offering, the problem you think you're solving, and the time that you have to do it. We live in an attention deficit world. I don't have time to sit down with every single one of our suppliers and give them the time that they're probably owed. But if you can strike through there and convince any one of our decision makers that you've got something that's going to unlock accretive value, usually profitable accretive value that helps the experience, you can do it in a short period of time and you've got a track record of performance against all my other options, your odds are a lot higher than they would be otherwise. I think what you also have to understand is you're dealing with really smart people and companies that are established, and they're very discerning, and they're using their intuition, and it's usually not wrong. So be honest, right? Be forthcoming, admit with humility what you can and can't do, and then just make sure that you're bringing value to the table, and it's not always about the lowest price.
That's fantastic. It's great advice, and thank you so much for spending your time, your wisdom,
Thank
your attention here today.
Always,
it was great having the discussion. We could go on for a long time. We've got a lot of great speakers coming up, but thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it.
All right. Hold on, I'm going to do a little selfie.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure and check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis and the Global E-Commerce Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor, Keynote Speaker. If you want more content or to chat, follow me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.